and welcome. Hello and welcome. Welcome to another episode of the Empowered Immigrant Live. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Otis Landerholm. I'm the founding attorney here at Landerholm Immigration, A.P.C, where we fight for your American dream. And today, on today's episode of the Empowered Immigrant Live, we're going to be talking about TSA, the Transportation Security Administration, sharing your information with ICE. All right, TSA is sharing your information with ICE. You got to be aware of this, and so thank you for joining our live session today. Thank you for being here. All right, I'm filming this. It's the 18th of December, 2025. We're in the holiday season. All right, we've got a little holiday party planned for tomorrow for our team. A lot of our team will be out starting next week. I'll be working the next few days of next week. But anyway, I hope you're getting ready for the holiday season, and thank you again for tuning in. Remember, the Empowered Immigrant Live is here to train, teach, inspire, and empower immigrants to make the most out of immigration laws and to make the most out of their lives. All right? Today, our theme is TSA, the Transportation Security Administration, is sharing your info with ICE. All right? And my question, as always, is, hey, do you want to get a green card? Do you want to apply for citizenship? Do you want to seek asylum? Do you want to apply for VAWA or a U visa? Or do you want to at least figure out what might be the best option? What might be the best solution to upgrade your life through immigration laws? Because if so, go for it. All right? And I'd love to help you with that in any way that I can. My firm is on a mission to win 10,000 immigration cases in the next 10 years. We would love for your case to be one of them. All right? So thank you very much for being here. I want to share a couple of big wins. Two weeks ago, we won a case of habeas corpus, which is a way to challenge the legality of somebody's detention. If somebody's detained by the federal government and you're saying, now wait a second, this person is detained illegally, you can sue the government and you can, in some instances, win a release from that detention. So 2 weeks ago, we won habeas corpus. In the order from the judge, they ordered the immigration court to give our client a bond hearing, all right, which the government had been denying our client the right to request a bond hearing. In that bond hearing, we won bond. Last week, our client was released from custody. He had been detained for over a year, and we got him out, all right? So that was a big win. I wanted to share that, and I wanted to just let you know, right here is, 50 or so pages that I've written over the last week to submit another one. And so I've got another case where our client has been unlawfully detained. This one is in the detention center called Mesa Verde in California. And we're suing the government about it. And I filed this yesterday, and immediately yesterday, the federal judge, ordered the government to respond to my papers by tomorrow, all right, by Friday of this week. And so it's cool to see what federal judges are capable of when the government is violating people's rights, okay? And so it's the power of a habeas corpus case. My hope is that we can get this client out of detention by Christmas. I'll update you if that's possible, all right? It may or may not be, okay? So that's that. The topic of today's conversation is to report. We've seen this a little bit in the news. As I'm talking, by the way, if you have questions about your immigration case, or if you have questions about what I'm talking about, or anything else you want to raise, feel free to submit your questions. I'll do my best to answer them right here, right now, live, okay? So recent reports have been in the news and stuff, and they have confirmed that the Transportation Security Administration, TSA, is sharing traveler names with Immigration Customs Enforcement multiple times each week. All right? This is not just international flights where you're going through customs, all right? This applies to all domestic travelers, U.S. citizens, green card holders, non-citizens, undocumented immigrants, people who are traveling within the United States, visitors on visitor visa. The TSA, who swipes your documentation as you are passing through security in an airport, is sharing that information with ICE. ICE is then using that information, and they're checking whether travelers have an A number. And if so, whether there is a existing removal order against a person, if there's an order of deportation against you. All right? If there is a removal order, then ICE may go and arrest that person at the airport. Okay? And you got to be aware of that, especially this holiday season. People are going to be traveling, etc. Like, you know, there was this case in the news where the student from Honduras had a deportation order but didn't even know it. And she was traveling home for Thanksgiving, and in the airport gets arrested by ICE, gets put on a plane, gets deported back to her country. And she had no idea that she had had a deportation order from the past. That's really scary. And it just goes to show you, you want to be prepared. You want to understand your case record. If you're not clear about your case record, request all the FOIAs, get all those records. Lawyers can help you do that. Okay? All right, so couple of other things that have been in the news recently. Just this week, the Trump administration announced further extensions to their travel ban. Okay? And so there has been 12 countries on a full restrictions list where they're not even reviewing any applications. They've now added 5 additional countries to that, and then they've basically added 2 more even on top of that. So now the full list, I'll just read the full list here, all right? And if you're from any of these countries, then unfortunately what it means is that the government is not going to adjudicate any applications on your behalf for the foreseeable future, okay? And so, those countries are, you ready for them? Afghanistan, Myanmar, Chad, Republic of the Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Haiti, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, Yemen, Burundi, Cuba, Laos, Sierra Leone, Togo, Turkmenistan, and Venezuela. Okay? And so if you are from one of those countries, then your applications for immigration relief, or your application for asylum, or your application for a work permit will be paused. You can still submit the paperwork, but they will not issue a decision on that case. It will just be stuck and pending until further notice. All right, really frustrating for a lot of people. Aside from that, we've received reports from people, and this has happened to our clients, where they were scheduled for interviews, for example, for citizenship, and now that interview has been canceled. And we're seeing reports from a lot of people from lawyers throughout the United States, that they're receiving notices that they're canceling interviews. And so, some of that is you want to be aware that it's happening. I don't think you need to panic too much that has happened. It is happening, all right? It doesn't necessarily mean anything bad for your situation, but just be aware, if you have questions, or certainly if you have complexities inside of the case that you have filed, make sure you're talking to your lawyer, okay? All right. In addition to all of the applications from each of those countries being paused, you probably have also heard that asylum applications for all countries are paused, right? The government has just said, nope, we're not adjudicating asylum cases anymore. I'm interested to see if they get sued about that. I think it might happen, but that's that. Okay? You may have also seen news that work permits are under attack. I talked about this in our most recent episode. But work permits used to be approved for 5 years in various categories, and now they're reducing that time to 18 months at a time. And some work permits are just going, for up to a maximum of a year. So TPS or parole-based work permits are being extended through the end of their parole or up to 1 year, whichever period is shorter, which is really frustrating for people. But that's another way that the government is just making life difficult. All right, making life difficult for us and for the immigrant community. Okay, so that's what I wanted to share today. Thank you all so much for being here. I really appreciate each of you for tuning in right here, right now. It's December 18th of 2025. Again, if you have questions, please feel free to submit your questions. I'll do my best to answer them. The best advice about all of these cases, about all of these issues, is that, when we're submitting something to immigration, especially right now, we want to prepare things so well, we want to prepare things so thoroughly and so professionally that when possible, if USCIS chooses to deny it, we can sue them about it. All right? That's the standard that we want to be thinking about, right? Now is not the time to hire your cousin or to have your cousin help you fill out the paperwork. Now's not the time to go to some notario down the street who doesn't have even the right to represent somebody in court, and they've never been in a courtroom. All right? Cases right now, you want a team behind you who does the case well and who can fight about it if the government denies you when possible. Okay? So that's my kind of punchline here today. Now, what questions are out there? And again, thank you very much for being here. Let me find my... Okay, El Polkas, I see your question here. You say a U visa filed in May of 2017. Should I require to go take pictures and fingerprints again? The question there is, have you already done it? Have you already gone in and taken photos and fingerprints? Because if so, no, you don't need to do it again, unless the government sends a new biometrics notice, they call it. But typically, you just need to get those done once, and then the government will use those same prints to run a search through the FBI database. Your fingerprints won't change in the next years as your U visa is pending. So they can use those exact same prints, at least they should be able to, they often do, rerun those prints through the FBI database and see if you've had any recent arrests. Okay? If there was sometimes there's a smudge on the prints. Sometimes the prints weren't really clear, and sometimes they do ask somebody to go in and get new fingerprints. If so, you could talk it over with your lawyer. It's typically nothing to worry about. Okay? It's just they've got to correct the issue. All right, Pearly Gray, we appreciate you. Hey, thank you for saying that. Thank you for saying that. Appreciate that. All right, Rawo 2020, how can we end up bringing our spouses of U.S. citizens? Thank you for asking this question. So how can we end up bringing our spouses of U.S. citizens if they're from a banned country? It's going to be very difficult. Okay? It's going to be very difficult, close to impossible. You start with a petition. The petition can still be approved because you're a U.S. citizen, but then the petition goes to the National Visa Center to start the consular process. And to bring that person into the country right now, if they're from a banned country, will not be possible. Okay? But the hope is and the understanding is that that will reopen at some point in the future. All right? And when that does, you can be ready for that. And what I would say is file the petition as soon as you're able to, if you haven't already, and have that piece be done and approved so that as soon as these travel ban issues get at least partially lifted, then you can be in the front of the line. All right? Nice. So, so let's see. Danielle, I see your question here. I just applied for a T visa and a U visa, but I have a deportation order. Am I at risk? Okay, thank you for saying this, Danielle. First of all, you're not alone in that. In fact, the T visa and the U visa both have the power to waive deportation orders. All right, I've won several of those cases for people with deportation orders. The law allows the T visa and the U visa to waive deportation orders. All right, but it's not automatic. You've got to do a good job on your case. You've got to make sure that you're completing the case asking for those waivers. And ultimately, it will be up to the government as to whether or not they will approve the waiver of your deportation order. The best advice, knowing that you have a deportation order, is to talk to a lawyer about the possibility of filing a motion to reopen. Because a motion to reopen that case is the way to undo or reopen a deportation case so that that final order of removal or that final order of deportation is no longer on your record. All right? Motions to reopen come with risks. If you're denied and you've got a deportation order against you, they could come and pick you up and deport you. Okay? But if you're approved, then now they can't, because now that deportation order goes away, but now you're back in removal proceedings and you got to fight that fight in court. Okay? And so all of those are strategic decisions, but the fact that you have a T visa and a U visa, I mean, those are strong applications. All right? I hope that they were done well. I hope that the evidence is strong in them. But I'm just saying those are strong forms of immigration relief, and they do have the power to waive deportation orders. Okay? Again, it's not automatic, but it can work. All right, El Polkas, you said, just heard 3-year-old cases going to need new pictures. Thanks. Oh, okay. All right. I have not seen that announcement. It may be coming in today. I'm not surprised. There's so many changes happening. But if that's happening across the board, then there's no reason to think that it causes any particular issue in your case. Okay? The Blue Fox, you say, I sent my N400 back in June. They reused my prints on the 27th, but I still haven't heard anything back ever since. Okay, so they reused your prints, so that's helpful for El Polkas' question, and that's common for our cases as well, that they'll reuse prints if they have them on file already. So then, let's see, I sent my N400 back in June. They reused my prints on the 27th. Okay, and so I don't know which country you're from, the Blue Fox, but June to right now, that's 6 months. That's about right. All right, that's about right. We've seen some citizenship cases move faster than that right now. Some of them have moved slower than that. And so, I wouldn't be too worried at this stage. All right, if you still hear nothing for, say, the next 3 months, then talk it over with your lawyer and see what you could do about it. Okay? Mansoor, you say, I appreciate your help. Are asylum cases in immigration court also paused? I'm not from the ban list. Yeah, so there's a lot of confusion about that. The answer as I've experienced it in my hearings that I've had in immigration court in the last weeks is that no, the judges are moving forward with their asylum cases. Okay? And so sometimes we discuss this issue in the case, and the judges are like, okay, I think we are still supposed to keep going on because the orders were not clear. But yeah, I do think that immigration court is still happening because they are under orders to move cases through immigration court and really deport a lot of people. Okay? All right, Tila, you say, can an H-1B filed on 12/12 be approved before Christmas? Change of status from F-1 to H-1B. Outside of my wheelhouse. I'm sorry about it. I can't give good advice about H-1B visas generally. My office fights for the rights of immigrants who are facing deportation. And so unfortunately, I wish I could answer your question well, but I wish you the best of luck. All right? So, let's see, 041622. Can someone with a dismissed conviction still get a green card? 100%. 100%. If it was a dismissed conviction, first of all, there's no such thing as a conviction if the case got dismissed. All right, so terminology lesson there. If it was a dismissal, then you were not convicted. Okay, but if unless you got convicted and then later there was post-conviction relief and they dismissed it, quote unquote, dismissed it under some other statute or something like that, that would require a more in-depth analysis. But if your case was dismissed from the outset, meaning charges were dropped against you, then you were not convicted, and then definitely you can still get a green card. The analysis about crimes when you're applying for a green card is, do the crimes make you, quote unquote, inadmissible? All right? There are certain crimes, they're listed in section 212A2 of the Immigration Nationality Act. You can look at them. Crimes involving moral turpitude. Well, we'd have to look at the code section that you were convicted under to see if it's a, quote unquote, crime involving moral turpitude. Or is it a controlled substance offense? Is it related to any law that violates controlled substances laws, drugs, all right? Is it what they call a quote-unquote aggravated felony conviction? There are other convictions. Those are the main ones, okay? And so if you have anything like that, I mean, the way to know whether or not you have anything like that is talk it through with an immigration lawyer. Have a consultation, bring your records in, and then we can give you precise advice as to whether or not you should apply for your green card and whether or not you need a waiver or whether or not you're totally clear or whether or not your case would put you at risk of being put into deportation proceedings, all right, which is the risk if somebody has a more serious offense, okay, meaning a crime that is not waivable, okay? So that's the scoop, ladies and gentlemen. That is the scoop. I think that's all the questions that I got. Our F4 filings taking 10 plus years to be approved. Thank you for asking this here on TikTok. Love humor. All right, so yes, they are. F4 filings, U.S. citizens filing petitions for their siblings, they take forever. It depends on which country you're from. If you're from the Philippines or Mexico, we're talking 20 years, okay? And if you're from other countries, yes, it's about 10 years. They take forever. The way to check for your specific country is to look on the Visa Bulletin. You can do a Google search right now, Visa Bulletin, December 2025. You could get it. You could see which categories for which countries are being approved right now, all right? And you'll see that for F4, they're more than 10 years delayed. Okay? All right, folks, I think that's what I got. Perfect, because I'm starting to get something in my throat. I've been kind of dealing with a cold. It's going around right now. So couple of things. So if you are listening to me right now, and if you are a client of my firm, all right, if you are a current client of Land or Home Immigration, A.P.C., this is an announcement for you. We have our client call. We do a client call every month just to like, hey, ask your questions. Let's talk about updates. Let's all get on the same page. We have a client call this month at the very end of the year, right? It's scheduled for December 29th at 3 p.m., and I'm going to do the client call with the updates about immigration and how that affects each of our clients and what our strategies are for our clients. But then I'm also going to do something kind of fun, all right? I'm going to do what we call a New Year, New You workshop. And I'll discuss how we can prepare ourselves and how we can plan our lives to achieve what we want to achieve in 2026 and beyond, all right? Even despite all this immigration law craziness. All right, sound good? All right, so if you are our client, please join us then on the 29th of December. We'd love to have you there. That's all I got for today, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, I got a couple other questions here. Let's see here. Mariana, I think. Can I do a waiver for an entry in the U.S. if citizens in a banned country but live in Germany? Citizens are from that country, but they live in Germany. Yeah, the answer will be no. I mean, you can do the request. It just will not be adjudicated until after the travel ban stuff is done. Okay, that's the way that works. And then Hab Tamu, I see your case. You say, I filed a K-1 visa but forgot to send a divorce decree. Can I send it to them now or wait? Got that. Got that? Yeah, that'll cause a delay in your case. It could either be rejected as incomplete, or it could be denied as incomplete, or you could receive a request for additional evidence, in which case you could respond and send it in. The challenge of sending it right now is that it might get lost. All right, that's the only challenge with sending it kind of interfiling without a request from them. But if you did this through your USCIS online account, the chances of that are relatively low. So I would say go ahead and file it. But if you are doing this on mail, sending it in by snail mail to the USCIS office, then on Form I-129F, then I would say probably wait for your receipt notice. Okay, wait for a RFE notice where they're asking for that piece of evidence, and then just be ready for it, because they might ask for other things too, right? And you want to make sure that you're responding to everything that they're asking for. Cool. All right, that's what I got here today. Oh, let's see. Did you know? You said my friend has a conditional green card and didn't apply for the conditions to be removed. It's been 2 years. Yeah, that's a problem. That's a problem. When a person has a conditional green card and they miss the deadline to apply to remove those conditions, they lose their green card. All right, they could be issued a notice to appear in immigration court and be put into deportation proceedings. All right, so that's a problem. There are ways to file late, but they should talk to a lawyer very quickly. Okay? Feel free to call our office. We handle those types of cases. I've fought and won those types of cases, especially when there's like a good, if they like just missed the filing deadline and, they want to request an exemption, and show that their delay was reasonable under the circumstances, sometimes that is winnable. Okay? All right, you guys, that is all I've got for today. Thank you all so much for being here. I really appreciate each and every one of you. I think that immigrants are awesome. And I think that because I meet with immigrants here in my office all the time. All right, and I know people from all over the world, and they truly are awesome. And it's an honor of mine to work with immigrants. It's an honor of mine to represent immigrants and to fight complex immigration cases. I love doing what I do. And so anyway, I really appreciate each of you for tuning in here today. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll see you next time. If this was useful, if this was helpful, please subscribe or like or share, right? And the best way to follow us is to go to our channel in YouTube and hit the subscribe button. All right, that's Landerholm Immigration in YouTube. Hit the subscribe button. When you're there, you could also hit the notifications bell so you can be notified every time we upload an additional video. That'd be awesome. My team would appreciate it. I'd appreciate it. That'd be great. Helps our platforms perform better and all that good stuff. That's all I got for today, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name's Otis Landerholm, Landerholm Immigration, A.P.C., where we fight for your American dream. And we'll see you next time on our next episode of the Empowered Immigrant Live. Make it a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.